Hope your lunches were great. And now I'm so excited to welcome Stacey Flowers to the stage to talk about happiness.
Good afternoon. Can someone in this room say power? Oh, that was good, but we just got back from lunch. I think we can do better than that. Can somebody in this room say power? Power. One more time, because I like things in threes. Can somebody in this room say power? Power. That's good. I'm in the right room. I'm excited to be here. I want to tell you guys about something that happened in late December of 2015. I had decided that I wanted to enter into the stress-free, happy, living my best life phase of my life. And I decided that I wanted to enter into that phase because I had just experienced the most amount of business success that I had ever experienced in my entire life. A couple of years prior to that, I had guardianship of my 13-year-old niece, and I had just successfully transitioned her to be back home living with her mom. My son, he was doing amazing. Financially, I was exactly where I wanted to be, so I was just like, now is the time for me to start living my best life. So what I decided to do was upgrade my home. I figured, my son is getting a little bit older. I've made a little bit of money. Let me expand my home. So I went on ahead and invested in a 3-story, 4-bedroom, 1.5 downtown duplex in my hometown of Omaha. And I moved in at about December, and I just thought that this was going to be a year of me decorating and feeling it with dinner parties and all of my friends who wanted to live their best life. But what happened in about March is my eldest sister, she went through a crisis, and she called me, and she was just like, Stacey, I know you just got your 3-story, 4-bedroom, 1.5 downtown duplex, and I was just wondering, is there any way that I could just move in temporarily while I'm going through this crisis? And I was just like, yeah, I'm living my best life. You should come over to live your best life too. Absolutely, come on. So my sister moved in, and then a few months after that, my mom actually went through a crisis, and she called, and she was just like, hey, Stacey, I know Quita's there, and I know you have things there with your son and stuff, but given that this is a 3-story, 4-bedroom, 1.5 downtown duplex, I was just wondering if it would be okay for mom to just move in for a little bit. I'm kind of going through some things, and I'm like, well, mom, absolutely, you're my mom. Come, yes, move into my best life. So my mom moves in, and it just so happens that things are going on, and I'm doing work, and I'm actually at a conference in Nassau, Bahamas, when my mom calls me, and she's just like, Stacey, I'm calling because Sabrina is going through a crisis right now, and I know you're in Nassau, Bahamas, but we're here at your 3-story, 4-bedroom, 1.5 downtown duplex, and I was just wondering if it would be okay if Brina and her girls move in temporarily while they're going through something. And I say, because I'm on the beach, what am I gonna say? No? So I'm like, okay, Mom, sure, Sabrina can move in. So my baby sister and my 4 nieces move into my home. A couple of months after that, my other older sister calls, and she's just like, Stacey, I'm really going through some things right now, and I know everyone is at the house of your 3-story, 4-bedroom, 1.5 downtown duplex, but I'm going through some things, and I just was wondering if it would be okay if me and the girls moved in. And I said, you know what, Stephanie, absolutely, you can go ahead and move in. So then my second oldest sister and my 3 nieces moved into my home. Just before Thanksgiving, my dad called, and he was just like, well, daughter, normally I stay with Sabrina in the wintertime, but I heard that everybody's at your 3-story, 4-bedroom, 1.5 downtown duplex, and your mom said that there's no one in the basement, so I was just wondering if it would be okay if I came. And I said, Dad, I was just trying to live my best life. It's like, yes, Dad, you can move in. And so within a 9-month window, my entire immediate family moved into my home. That would be 7 nieces, my 1 son, my 4 sisters, my biological mom and dad, who have not lived together in majority of all of my adult years. So needless to say that even though I had a plan at the end of December to live my best stress-free life, I was not living my best stress-free life. I went on to live some of the most overwhelming stress that I could ever possibly imagine, because while everyone was moving in with their individual crises, I don't know if you're anything like my family, but when you go through a crisis, you don't go through a crisis with financial means. You don't go through a crisis with a lot of support around you. When you're going through a crisis, you have barely anything to be able to keep you afloat. And so in this particular space, I'm beginning to take on the responsibilities for all of these adults, for my nieces. I'm beginning to try and want to control for the circumstances that are going on in their life. I'm trying to manage for this chaos. And in all of this stuff that I was doing, what I didn't realize is while I was trying to control for all of my family members being in the house, that I was leaking the power that I had to once run my successful company that was more successful than I had ever imagined. I didn't realize that I was leaking the power to be able to parent my child consistently because I was spending so much time trying to control for the chaos of their life. I didn't realize that I was leaking power to just take care of myself. And it wasn't until things really got to a boiling point that I had to finally sit with myself and say, okay, Stacey, you can either continue to leak your power in favor of trying to control these circumstances that are beyond you, or you can surrender that and you can try to access your power so you can get back to doing the things that you wanted to do. And reluctantly, because I am a reform and control freak, I decided to relinquish the idea of control in favor of picking up power. And what I realized as I started to rebuild my company and travel around the country and around the world is that a lot of women, we like to control things. And in us controlling things, a lot of us are giving up our access to happiness because we think that the only way to be able to achieve it is if we control the circumstances for everything. If we can control when we get the ring, if we can control when we get the house, if we can control when we get the promotion, if we can control when we get pregnant, if we can just control a little bit more, then finally we'll be happy. And so what I came here today to do is to encourage you to surrender that control in favor of harnessing the power so you can actually access more happiness than you ever could possibly imagine. And when I say power, I mean it by definition, but I also mean it as a framework so that you can remember these 5 steps. So if you have paper, I encourage you to take it out now. I'm going to go fast. P in power is for people. This is something that I talked about in my TED Talk. I talked about how you are the average of the 5 people that you choose to associate with the most. I think that all of us already know this. The challenge is that most of us don't know whom we should be associating with. We should be associating with people like our cheerleader, our mentor, our coaches, our friends, and our peers. Accessing these types of people will enable you when you're going through something to have encouragement from a cheerleader, to have direction from a mentor, to have discomfort from a coach. This, what I'm doing with my hands, is just an anchor so that you can remember these people. The coach is supposed to make you uncomfortable. The friend is right here on the ring finger because I'm told that that finger is connected to your heartstrings, and then you have your peer. You need these 5 people in order for you to stay connected, and there's no greater place that we leak our power than in not nurturing the bonds and the relationships that we have around us. So you need people in order for you to access your power. The O is for obstacles. I am encouraging every single one of you ladies in this room to face your obstacles, understanding that on the other side of every single obstacle is an opportunity. It is an opportunity for you to do something different than what you have done before. The way that John Maxwell says it, he says you only experience resistance when you're moving forward. What that essentially means is that every time you're facing an obstacle, you are doing what Brene Brown said. You are in the arena. Obstacles are a part of the journey. In order for you to be able to access your power, I'm encouraging you, don't run from your obstacles. Stand and face them with an air of curiosity, hoping to mine them for the opportunities that they're going to present to you. W is for why. That is about you getting really crystal clear on why you're doing the thing that you're doing. We're so familiar with the idea of companies having a corporate why and that being the thing that drives them. But what about the personal why? What about the thing that's driving you to do what it is that you want to do? Nietzsche says it this way: he or she who understands their why can endure any how or any what. Now, I may mention that my entire family moved in with me. So what you guys know about me is clearly I love my family. Clearly, They mean the world to me, but what most people don't know is that at the top of 2017, as a result of everyone coming into my home in 2016, I experienced something called nervous exhaustion. Nervous exhaustion is when your mind, your heart, your body, every single thing inside of you shuts down and you're not able to function. Depression shows up and it brings its best friend anxiety. It knocks on the door, doesn't really do it because it's gonna wait for you to answer, just comes on in and decides that it's going to be there. And during that year, my life challenges were, am I gonna get out of bed today? If I get out of bed, am I gonna be able to make it to the bathroom? It was a very dark, difficult time. And so when I started to heal and I started to repair and I started to pull my life back together, this is after 2 companies had failed. This is after I hadn't worked for an entire year. This is after major hospitalization. And the first thing that I did when I got back up is I set an intention to restore my financial dignity because I had lost everything financially. I set an intention to restore my financial dignity, and then I went to work part-time at a cafe, which on the surface, there's nothing wrong with that. But prior to that, I had just been running a 6-figure company. I'm a woman with a bachelor's and a master's degree, so when I got up and decided to go work part-time at a cafe, everyone was saying, what are you doing? How are you going to do this? And my response to them every single time is, you know what? I know why I'm doing this. I know why I'm working part-time at a cafe right now, because I need to build in time to build myself up emotionally and mentally to be able to handle the capacity of being an entrepreneur again. Then, in my effort to restore my financial dignity, I went on the internet and told everybody how much debt I was in. Detailed numbers. And people were like, what are you doing? And I was like, I know why I'm telling everybody these detailed numbers, because I really want to be able to get out of debt and live the rest of my life by cash, and I need a next level of accountability. Every single step from the time that I started to repair myself mentally and emotionally, I knew why I was doing it. So when I was making decisions that didn't make sense to other people, I was firm in those decisions because I knew why. Sometimes you don't have the power to access your happiness because you don't know why you're doing what you're doing. So when the how shows up or when a what shows up, it throws you this way to that way. If you don't want to be tossed around by life, figure out why you are doing what you are doing. E is for expectations. Expectations gets a bad rep, especially on Instagram. Instagram is like, listen, expectations are the beginning of disappointment. I'm like, that is not accurate. 2 things, expectations are the seeds to your standards. The second thing is expectations are for you, not other people. I've had 10 years to work with people's expectations in a career where I met their expectations day in and day out. For undergrad and grad school, I put myself through those degrees working as a waitress. And so I have first-hand experience dealing with people's expectation. I'm a steak girl, so I usually work in steakhouses. And you know who was always disappointed when they came to my steakhouse with my service? Vegetarians and vegans. They were always disappointed, not because I didn't meet their expectations, but because they thought those expectations were for me. No, expectations are the seeds to your standard. If you're vegan and vegetarian, go to the place that serves vegan and vegetarian, you won't be disappointed. But how many of us in our life, we have an expectation. We want a certain type of a career, but we don't go there. We want filet mignon, but we go to Burger King. Why do we do this in our life? Because we have been told that expectations are for other people, and when they don't meet them, there's something wrong with them. I'm telling you, expectations are the seed to your standard for yourself. Set them, and then step into the environment that's going to serve you. Step into the environment that's going to put you right in front of the happiness that you deserve and desire. R is for results. This is about you focusing on your daily results over you trying to control for the outcomes in life. When I was invited to do a TED Talk, the outcome that I wanted was this Brené Brown experience. I wanted my TED Talk to go live to get about 1 million views in 2 weeks, and I wanted to wait for Oprah to call me. That was the outcome that I wanted, and when I was focused on that outcome, you know what I wasn't doing? Practicing my speech so that way I could deliver a beautiful result that was an idea worth spreading. Thankfully, I had a coach in my life who helped me come right back down to earth. And she said, now listen, Stacey, you're going to miss this opportunity if you don't focus on the results that you have the power to produce. How many of us are so caught up in our Oprah-like outcomes that we are not considering our daily results, the daily results that lead to our weekly reviews, the weekly reviews that lead to our quarterly reviews, the quarterly reviews that determine whether or not we're going to get a promotion, that determine whether or not we're ready to make the transition into entrepreneurship, that determine whether or not we're ready to go to the next level in our life. The R in your power for you to access the happiness is for you to focus on those daily results and release the outcome. The idea is that power is available to you at all times, in all ways. You have access to people. You can face your obstacles. When you get clear on why, how, and what will show up, set the expectation and maintain your standard. Focus on your results. This is the truth that I learned coming out of that experience that I lived. This is why I have the power to have happiness despite my circumstances. This is the last story, and I'll close. When I think about this, I always think about my son when he was I think he was like 6 years old. He's definitely 17 now. And he was like, tell them, Mom. I was like, listen, you're 16. You'll be 17 next month. He was like, tell him I'm 17. I was like, so my son, when he was about 6 years old, he really, really, really wanted a dog. And I really, really, really did not want a dog. So me and his dad agreed, rather than getting him a dog, that we would get him a fish. And so we went to the pet store. We went right up to the pet owner and we said, listen, we need the best fish in this entire pet store. Pet owner knew what we were talking about, the fish that don't die. So he took us over to the beta fish. My son pressed his face up against the beta fish screen and he was just like, that one. And he picked out a purple and blue fish. And I said, why do you want a purple and blue fish? He was just like, well, purple's your favorite color. Me and my dad are blue for the boys. So it's like our family fish. I was like, Mom. I was like, you are right. Let's go get a fishbowl for you. And because my son is an only child, he doesn't get the clear circle fishbowl that normal beta fish go in. We get him a 2-story white house with windows and a door for his fish to go in. We get the fish home, we unpack him, and I tell my son, in the morning, just take a little pinch and put it in the fish bowl for the fish, and that will be enough. So every day, my son wakes up, he's like, Mom, I took a little pinch, I put it in there. Mom, I took it. And he's just telling me every single day, and every time that he's at his dad's house, he'll call me to tell me what his fish is doing. He's like, oh, Mom, my fish is by the window, he's over by the door. So like every day, I'm getting this update on this fish experience for him. And then one morning he calls me and he's just like, Mom, you're not gonna believe this. And I was like, what is it, son? He's like, my fish is swimming upside down. And I was like, is it? Let me talk to your dad. And so his dad gets on the phone and I'm like, all right, Rodney, we have a choice. We can either tell our son the truth or we can go get another fish. He was just like, let's get another fish. I was like, okay, I'll run to the store, I'll get another fish. He's like, no, I got this. I was like, you sure? He's like, I got this. I was like, all right. So my son goes to school that day. Later on that day, I get the most excited phone call that I've ever gotten from my son in his entire life. He's like, Mom, guess what? You are not gonna believe this. And I was like, what is it, son? Tell me, what's going on? He's like, my fish changed colors. And I said, it did? Well, what color did it change to? He said, it's orange and white. I said, well, how do you think that happened? He said, oh, my dad told me it's a tropical fish and it just adapts to whatever environment it's in. So soon it'll be all white. And I was like, your dad is absolutely right. That is a tropical fish. And I tell people this story anytime I have to offer them a simple truth because it reminds me about how much we want to hold on to our tropical fish and give up the truth, right? The tropical fish is the illusion that you can control circumstances, that you can control outcomes, that you can make things happen, that you can force happiness. That is a tropical fish. The truth is that you want more happiness than you can possibly imagine. If you want the happiness that you deserve and desire, that you are going to have to be willing to give up that tropical fish of control in favor of picking up the truth that happiness comes from the power in you. Thank you.